Hello there, my name is Katie and I work with the Region of Waterloo. Today we're going to be exploring the ABCs of bullet journaling. So let's get started. There are many different terms and definitions in bullet journaling, and today we're going to break those down and look at some examples to make it a little bit easier to understand. So for the A letter, we have A5 dot grid, which is a style commonly used in the notebook and journaling community. A5 indicates the size of the journal, and the dot grid represents the style of paper. This is what dot grid paper looks like. Now, it's by no means the only type of paper you can use for journaling. There's blank pages, there's lined pages, and even graph paper. The preference is completely up to you. Moving ahead to B, the first one on our list is Bujo, and this is a common short form for the word bullet journal. You'll hear them interchanged as you go as well. Next up, we have bleeding. Bleeding is when ink soaks through a piece of paper to the other side, but it's really visible and it's hard to clean and cover it. Think of when you put Sharpie on a piece of paper. Here's what it looks like. Here's the word on one side, and here's what it looks like on the other. There's no easy way to cover that up. We also have a couple more definitions for B. We have brain dump, and a brain dump is a process where you put down all of the thoughts that are traveling in your head onto a piece of paper. Sometimes it can really help to get it out of your head and look at it and be able to then organize it and maybe put it into a list or task that you need to run. The other one we have for B is bullets. Ryder Carroll is the creator of bullet journaling system, and this is his definition. Bullets are the syntax of the system. They are short form sentences paired with symbols that visually categorize your entries. There's three common examples of bullets, but these are by no means exhaustive. The first one is tasks. That's signified by this little closed circle. The next one is notes, signified by a dash. And the third is events, signified by an open circle. You certainly don't have to use these. These are just common ones. And you'll see later on that I don't even use these either. All right, on to C. A bullet journal is essentially a module framework. Each module or collection serves to organize related information. Basically, collections are just a group of pages together that help organize a piece of information. This collection shows a daily log or something that's tracking throughout the day. So the collection itself would just be all the days of the week throughout that week or that month. All right, on to D. For D, we have a couple terms. The first is the daily log. And the daily log are the tasks or work that must be complete. You would simply rapid log your tasks, notes, and events. It's a very straightforward and easy way to track what's going on in your world. And this is what most people think of when they think of a notebook or a calendar that they write information down in. The next term we have are doodles, and doodles are a drawing or scribble. They're often done very quickly and they don't show a lot of detail. They may or may not have color involved. Here's what a doodle looks like. As you can see, some of these are a little bit more artistic and in-depth, but some of them are very simple, just a couple of lines and some leaves. It's totally up to you, but doodles can enhance your journal's personal feel. After doodles, we have Dutch doors. And Dutch doors are a way of creating a spread in your journal where parts of the page remain stationary and the other parts are movable. Typically, a Dutch door is done by cutting off some form of the paper. But here's what it looks like. As you can see, this person has cut around the flowers to outline and have that creative Dutch door look. Now, not everyone is comfortable doing that, so there are some other ways that you can do a Dutch door, such as a faux Dutch door. And in that case, all you do is fold the page in half. It's completely up to you. Next up, we're moving on to E, and for E, we have events. Events are date-related entries that can be either scheduled ahead of time or logged after the fact. Here's a couple simple examples. Tom's last day, watched Wonder Woman, walked home to clear head. They don't have to be anything huge or significant, but they help you track, almost like a diary, what's happened in your life. Now, moving on from E, we have F, and we have future log. A future log is used to store dated entries that will occur outside that current month. So for example, if you were traveling on vacation in October, but it's only April, you could write it down in your future log. This is what it looks like. You can plan as far in advance as you want. Some people use the future log to track things like upcoming appointments or important deadlines, that sort of thing. But it's completely up to you. Moving on, we have G. And for G, we have GSM. So the GSM is grams per square meter, and that's how you determine the weight of a paper in a notebook. Common weights, or GSM, are anywhere from 90 to 160. The higher the number, the thicker the paper. And the higher the number, the less likely you are to have things like bleeding happen. The next term we have is ghosting. Ghosting is when the ink shows a shadow through the back of the paper. So unlike bleeding, you can often cover up ghosting. Here's another example. Here's the front, and here's the back. As you can see, it's certainly not as clear, and you could probably color over that or write over it and would not be able to read the word. Next up, we go to H. And for H, we have hand lettering. Hand lettering refers to a style of drawing that is specifically created with your hand. It could be something as simple as calligraphy, but it's also just different kinds of lettering. Here's an example. So the word collections is also a form of hand lettering, just as the word TV shows. And you don't have to be creative. All you have to do is write out letters. They're all forms of hand lettering. Moving on, next we have I. And for I, we have the index. The index is one of the most important things in your bullet journal, as it serves to locate the content within your journal. Kind of think of this as a table of contents. This is what it's going to look like. If I'm creating a future log, it would be on pages 1 through 4. Pretty straightforward. All right, moving on to J. And for J, we have the journal. Now, journaling is a method of personal organization to record memories and activities. It's really important to remember that it's personal. A journal is meant to work for you. This is what a common journal might look like. They often have a hard cover, and typically they have an elastic to bound, and they also have some ribbon at the bottom to use as a bookmark. But a journal can be anything you want it to be. Moving on to K, and this is probably one of the most important things in your bullet journal along with your index, and that's your key. The key is a type of legend to help you keep track of all those symbols and colors and what they represent. So as you can see in my image, I don't use traditional bullets the way other people do. For me, my key shows that I use a square for a task, an open circle for an event, an open triangle for an appointment, a star for something important I need to remember, and I also track if it's started or complete. This isn't my full key, but this is just a sample of some of the things you would want to include. Typically, you would set up a key at the very beginning of your bullet journal, so that way you can always refer back to it. Moving on from K, we have L, and for L, we have the term layout. Now, layout is simply how someone organizes their collection or their spread. It's basically whatever it is you're going to put on the page. Here's an example of a layout. For this one, I've done something to track professional goals that I have for 2021. As you can see, it's a very simple layout. There's not a lot of color, there's not a lot of text, and there's no illustrations. A layout can be anything you want, and we'll have lots more ideas in part 2 of this workshop. Now, from L, we move on to M. And for M, we have a couple of different ones. The first one is migration. Migration is when you transfer incomplete tasks from one collection to another. So basically it means if I did something in January, but I never actually finished it, I can migrate and change it over to the next month and put it in February. The other thing we have for M is our monthly log. So as Ryder Carroll says, the monthly log is a spread of facing pages that consists of a calendar and a task page. Now, personally, I don't use a monthly log, but some people love it, and this is what it can look like. On one side, you would show the numbers of the days and the days of the week, and on the other, you would show the overall tasks for your whole month. From M, we move to N. And we have a couple of interesting ones. The first one being notes. Notes include your thoughts, facts, ideas, and observations. They capture information you don't want to forget. These are all the little things that you can add to your journal to help personalize it. Might be a little note that you thought someone had a cute outfit on, or it might be an idea that you had throughout that day. We also have nameplates. Now, nameplate is something very personal. It's the cover or the first page of a journal, and it often has your name on it. Some people also choose to add either their phone number or an email that you can reach out and contact them if your bullet journal gets lost. Moving on, we go to O. And for O, we have something called One Line a Day. One Line a Day is a gratitude spread that asks you to reflect and write one item for each day of the month that you're thankful for. This is how I set mine up. Very simple. I mark the days of the week, and then I mark one thing. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just a place to help you self-reflect. From here, we go to P. And for P, we have printables. Printables are spreads. They might be a layout or a collection that someone else has created and made available to print off and use in your bullet journal. Sometimes these are even stickers as well. And here's an example. Someone's created this faux washi tape and put it online that you can download, print off, and stick it right into your bullet journal. Printables are a great option for those of us who are maybe not as artistic or don't feel comfortable drawing in our journals. From here, we go to Q. And for Q, we have our quotes page. A quote page is a page in a bullet journal that has an inspiring, uplifting, or maybe a favorite quote. Often these have an artistic element to them, such as hand lettering, but it's personal choice. Here's an example of one I have. It's nothing super crazy, but I've tried to have a little bit of color and some squiggles and dots just to make it a little bit special. Moving on from here, we have R. And for R, we have rapid logging. Rapid logging is a way of capturing information as bulleted lists. This is basically how you're going to track your information in your bullet journal. Here's what it would look like. On one side, you see traditional, lots of boxes, lots of information. And personally, if I'm looking at this list, it seems very overwhelming, like a lot to do. On the rapid logging side, we have a very short form bulleted point, and that's what you're looking for in your bullet journal. You want those quick pieces of information that are going to help you stay organized. All right, next we have S. And we have a couple of definitions for S, the first being a spread. So a bullet journal spread is a group of pages that are all about a related topic. So for example, A Year at a Glance is a spread that shows an overview of all the months of the year at once. Spreads tend to be at least 2 pages when you can see something quickly. After spread, we have signifiers, and this is really important as well. They are symbols that give additional context to an entry. So remember back to the bullets, it could be a circle or a square. If I saw a circle and I saw a star, I might know it's a priority event, or I might know that I'm inspired for the task I'm going to be working on. These are what some signifiers can look like. Next up, we have the letter T, and with T, we have theme. Themes are a way to unite spreads. Typically, a theme is done a month at a time, but sometimes you can see themes on a whole year, throughout the whole bullet journal, or maybe just a couple of pages. It could be something like I'm going to use the color red for December, or I'm going to do a Halloween theme for the month of October, or it could be a little more complex that I'm going to use calligraphy and astrology signs for the month of July. Next, we have tasks. Tasks are the items that need to be complete, and they often may have one of 5 different states. Let's have a look at what tasks could look like. So a circle could be a task and complete. An X over it could mean it was finished and completed. An arrow could mean it was migrated into a collection. An arrow another way could mean that it was a task scheduled for a future log. Or it could have a strike through, which meant that you deleted that task. Continuing on with T, we have a couple more definitions, and the first is threading. Threading is what we use to stitch different collections together. Often in your bullet journal, you might find that you're working on a page, perhaps it's a wish list, and you run out of room. That's okay. What you can do is thread the numbers of the pages together. I would go down to the very bottom of the page and I would write the next number of the new page you're going to start beside your current page. So for example, if I have a wish list on page 2 and I now need to move it to page 30, I'm going to put a 2-30. And then I know to refer to page 30 to continue on with my spread. After that, we have trackers. Trackers are common spreads or collections within a bullet journal that are used to track and follow a certain thing. We have habit trackers, mood trackers, bills, reading logs, all different kinds of things. Here's an example of one I do. This is my memories tracker. Every single month, I will draw a little picture here that represents something about the month. Maybe it's a picture of my family playing in the snow, who knows? But then at the end of the year, I can look back at all these different memories. All right, so I must admit, I could not think of anything for U and V. I had a really hard time, but if you can think of something, make sure you let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear what your definitions are. Next up, we come to W, and we have the weekly log. A weekly log is a spread of some kind where you can track with your rapid logging all the information of everything going on that week. There's different kinds of spread for a weekly log, such as the rolling weekly or a stationary weekly. It's total preference. But at its core, all it does is list the days of the week and give you a spot to write information, do your bullet journaling on your tasks, your event, and even write some notes on things going on. After that, we have waiting on. Waiting on is a type of spread that can be set up to track things you're waiting to get delivered or completed where you need someone else to do an action. Typically, I use my waiting on and write down when I have an Amazon order in delivery so I know to follow up if it hasn't been delivered by a certain date. Personally, I find the waiting on spread really helpful this time of the year to make sure I track all those different deliveries coming in and I don't forget when something's coming. This also helps me make sure I keep it organized and I don't forget that I had an order. After W, we have X. And again, I really couldn't think of anything for X. So if you have a brilliant idea, let us know in the comments below. Moving on to Y, and with Y, we have the yearly log or year at a glance. A year at a glance is a spread that's an overview of the dates for the following year. Here's what it looks like. Now, personally, I always set this up because I find it much easier to reference this when I'm creating my weekly spreads throughout the year. I already know which days of the week will be on which date, and it's much faster for me to set up my spreads this way. And finally, we have Z. Zero idea where to start bullet journaling? Don't worry. In the second part of this workshop, we'll be exploring how to set up a bullet journal for 2021. Make sure to join me on Saturday, December 12th at 2 p.m. for part 2 of this workshop. And in the meantime, make sure to check out some fantastic resources we have in the Regional Waterloo Library's collection. One, we have the Bullet Journal Method, and this is the book written by Ryder Carroll, the creator of the Bullet Journal. This is available on ebook in our catalog. Next, we have Dot Journaling, a Practical Guide, also available as an ebook in our catalog. And finally, we have Make Your Own Idea book. All of these books are great places to start to get inspiration, ideas on what might work for your spreads, as well as how you want to use your journal. That's one of the most important parts that you need to figure out. If you're looking to learn more, there's also a couple places you can check out. Archer and Olive is a website that sells bullet journals, but also has a daily blog that's very helpful for people just starting out. There's also the official bullet journaling website, which is created by Ryder Carroll, with some great learning tips and tricks. And we have a local bullet journaling expert called the Plant-Based Bride, and she's based out of Toronto, Ontario. She's fantastic with giving lots of tips and tricks for starting, as well as great ideas for layouts. Thank you so much for joining me today, and please make sure to check out part 2 of the series on Facebook, December 12th at 2 p.m.